you're at the same degree of success with a lot less stress. Just a little bit about me. I've held many leadership positions. When I was young, I was the president of my residence hall at Marquette University. And then I was also president and CEO of a semiconductor manufacturing company and chief learning officer of an international coach training school. So I know a little bit about being a leader, and I know a lot about being exhausted and on the way to burnout. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and if any of them resonate with you, you can type yes in the chat. And I would really love it, even if it's on the replay, let me know what resonated with you today. So if I could show you an antidote to burnout, that where you'll have more time in your schedule and your team will produce more, would you be interested in knowing what that is? Oh, we've got a couple of people joining us here. Let me drill a little deeper. If I showed you exactly what to do to be completely comfortable in delegating to where things would get done beautifully and you wouldn't even be stressed about it, would you want to know? And because your time is so valuable, if I showed you what to do, how to do this all in a way that didn't take up a whole lot more of your time, would that be of interest to you? If any of these are of interest to you, just type yes in the comments or give me a like or a heart, either one. And finally, I want to show you some simple tactics. So if I showed you these simple tactics that you could immediately use to lessen the stress in your day, would that be of help to you? All right, so if any of these are a yes for you, you are in the right place. And I have a few little notes on my screen here. So if you see me looking, I just want to make sure I cover everything for you. So I want to share just a little bit about my story and how I got into this and why I'm so passionate about helping leaders. Before I came into coaching, I'm actually a business executive coach. Before I came into coaching, I was working in estate planning, and I was working 60 to 70 hours a week. And I was really successful, but I was also really exhausted. And I was burnt out, and all I wanted to do was work less hours, wake up without an alarm clock that was blaring at me to get up, and also wear comfy clothes because I had to wear suits every single day. And I'm happy to tell you I've done that. It has worked out beautifully. And I've learned a specific methodology that has really helped me along the way. And that's what I want to share with you today. It will give you, you'll be able to lead with greater joy and ease. Oh, I see more people joining. Hi, everybody. This is so cool. So the key to all of this is communication, and it's a way of communicating. When you become a better communicator and hi Brandy, and are able to influence others in ways that really make sense to them, everything smoothens out, and you will lessen the volume of stress and prevent burnout from occurring. I really know this. I've got a lot to share. So if you want more information on this, just type, I want a report in the comments. I'm putting together a report about how leaders can prevent burnout and some of these communication tools that I am sharing with you. So I'm in the process of doing that. So if you want that report, let me know and we'll get it sent. And even if you're watching the replay, let me know about that report. We'll get it sent out. So let's jump into our lessons. And the first lesson as a leader to prevent burnout and avoid burnout is to let go of control. And you're going to say to me, what? Let go of control? This isn't easy for leaders to do. Taking control has been a success strategy of yours for so many years, and it's gotten you to where you are. So it served you so well, and those who you have around you. But when you don't let go of control, you can feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. There's so much pressure on business leaders today. You're responsible for supporting your customers, your client, your team, your colleagues, your boss, your subordinates, your family. Everyone is looking to you for support, and this can lead to burnout. So when you let go of control in a way that maintains the quality you're committed to, this is the most important part, then you can allow others to become empowered, and you will have more time and more headspace to do creative things with your business, to work on big picture thinking. And you'll get more projects completed in less time because you won't be in the middle of everything as the bottleneck. So in order to let go of this control, you really need to learn to lead others in a way that inspires them to rise up to that level of quality that you know can be achieved. And you need to teach them to think differently, to be able to make decisions that are going to enhance the quality of work for the whole entire team, to take initiative. How many times have we said this? As leaders, I want people to take more initiative, yet for me, it turned out that I needed to let go of control in order to get them to take that initiative. So have you ever heard the saying, what got you here won't get you there? Now, I've heard another saying of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I also think whatever got you here won't get you there. I think a lot of our systems, not that they're broke, but they're very antiquated ways of leading that we've all been taught. And it's nobody's fault. It's just that we have to learn new creative ways so that we can have our vision go out into the world. So the key to letting go is to change the way you communicate with others. And one simple example of how you can change this is, instead of telling people what to do, ask questions. Questions are so opening to everything. So it is difficult to do because it requires a little bit more time in the beginning, but it saves a whole lot of time in the end. It really does. So let me give you an example. When I was the CEO of a semiconductor manufacturing company, I had lots of people around me. And I would try to let go of control, and I would delegate things, and I would tell people, here's what I like you to do. And I was very kind about it, but I didn't ask any questions. And then what would happen is, days later, when the project was due or the report was due, or I needed something to get to one of our customers, it wasn't there. And so inevitably some balls would be dropped and things would not be done to my standards. And it was very frustrating. And I didn't know what to do about it. So then I had a realization. I realized that I wasn't asking enough questions when I delegated. So if I would ask someone to do something, I would ask them a question then. If I would tell somebody to do something, I would ask them a question. So I would say things like, what other projects are you working on that might be affected by this? So we could prioritize together. I would ask them a question like, when do you realistically think you could get this to me? So that I would know what else was on their plate and what they were working on. I would ask them, do you have any really great ideas on how we could get this done in a very efficient and streamlined way? So those are some questions to ask. And once I started asking those questions and having just a dialogue back and forth, things started opening up. I mean, people started doing things, and it was kind of funny because people started doing things in ways that were even more streamlined than I would have ever guessed. So that is one way that questions can really, really help in communicating as a leader. So I'm looking at my notes to make sure I have this. Okay, so questions are a form of communication, and they can decrease your stress and give you more support than you even thought was possible. I found this out. It was really cool. It was really great to go into work and have a meeting with one of our biggest customers and be able to have all of the information right there. So that is number one. Learn to ask better questions and more questions up front. And that's a communication tool. And you can, and that's a simple example. There are so many other uses of questions in communicating as a leader. So if you'd like more information, remember there is that report. So you can just type, I want a report, and we're compiling it now, and we'll get it to you as soon as it's done. So let me go to our second lesson today. And the second lesson is you, as a leader, you need to stop the notion that to get everything done right, you need to do it yourself. So I am the worst at a culprit of this. I always felt that way. To get to a position of leadership, you've had to excel and do things with excellence. So you're used to that, to doing that. And you're probably used to doing some of it all on your own. But when you feel you have to do everything yourself, you quickly run out of hours in the day. You may find that you can't get to meetings that you need to get to because you're still working on projects. You find that you can't even have dinner with your family because you're still at work and you're working such long hours. And even when you're home, you're not really available to others because there's always something going on in your mind with the energy of being a leader. And maybe sometimes you look at some colleagues that are not leaders and you think, wow, they're going home every day on time and they're just doing the minimum. And you might feel very frustrated with that and question what you're doing. So what you need to do is you need to ask for support from others. And that allows them to do their best and bring their strengths to the table. And in order to get the proper support from others, it's important to know how to delegate. I mentioned the word strength, to their strengths. When we delegate to people and it's not a part of their strength, they can procrastinate. I know for me, sometimes when I have to do things that aren't part of my strengths, I do tend to procrastinate a bit. So they can procrastinate and then wait till the last minute. And then there may be pieces of the report or the project that can't get done. So when you do delegate to strengths, and how do you find, first of all, how do you find the strengths? Finding the strengths is about listening. When you listen to your team members, when you listen to your colleagues and the people around you, you'll understand what they're strong at. You'll know what to do with them. And so listening is really important. And it's so hard to take time to listen sometimes because everything in business these days seems urgent. Everything seems to want your attention. And you feel like if you take the time to listen, you're shortchanging something else. But the truth is, if you take the time to really listen to people, you can find out what they're good at and find out what their strengths are, and you can delegate things to them that are right within their strengths. And when you do this, when you delegate to people and their strengths, they will do the job and even more. I've been very amazed at times when I've delegated something to somebody and they come back with even more than what I've asked them for. This is what happens, but it takes listening. So this is the key to not having to do everything yourself, is to be able to listen to people well enough to know what their strengths are, to be able to delegate properly, and then you won't be disappointed. And I have an example of this. I was working with a manager at Ford Motor Company, and he was putting on a huge event that had all of the top leaders of Ford there. And I remember we sat down in one coaching session and we looked at all the different things that need to be done. And then we thought about each person and their strengths, each person on the committee and the team and their strengths, and we delegated to that person. We kind of made this map up. And wouldn't you know, the event went off without a hitch. In fact, I think they got some accolades for it, and it was just great. So that was an example of delegating to strengths and what it can do. So what you want to do in order to not have to do everything yourself or have that feeling is upgrade your communication skills to know what to listen for in the people around you. And it's not just listening for strengths. There's so many other things you can listen for that will really make a huge difference in how the people around you perform. So this will avoid burnout, and it's so cool because it will avoid burnout for you, but it will also empower so many others around you to do their best and to give a level of excellence that they may never have given before. So that's lesson number 2 is let people help you and don't feel you have to do all of this yourself, and learn the communication skill of listening so you can figure out who it is that you can really, that is around you that can really help you and with what they can help you. All right, we're going to go into lesson 3. And again, if you want that report that we're compiling right now on helping leaders have less stress and prevent burnout, just type "I want the report" in the chat. And even if you're listening to the replay, you can still do that. So let's go on to lesson 3. And this is probably one of my favorite things that I ever learned. And it's take care of yourself. So many leaders are working long hours, pushing yourself to the limit to finish that next report or get a hold of somebody. You're exhausted, but you can't stop. You're on this hamster wheel. And believe me, I have been there myself. And it's everything needs your attention. So when you have when you have a self-care plan in place, this all goes away to a degree. Okay, you can turn down the volume. You have energy and strength to do what you need to do. Your mind is sharp. You know, sometimes, oh, thank you, Brandy. It is so important because, you know, if we keep going and going and going and we don't get the proper rest and hydration, nutrition, our mind, we have a little bit of brain fog, or we're not making the best decisions that we could possibly make. So the key to your self-care plan is to have a defined routine so that you can prepare yourself to be at your best. And once you implement your self-care plan, you'll feel renewal, refreshment, and you'll be able to take on the challenges that come your way with ease. It's really true. And let me just tell you, there are 4 elements of your self-care plan. So you want to have a physical self-care plan. So these are things like hydration and food and sleep and exercise. You want to have an intellectual portion of your self-care plan. And that includes what you read, what you listen to, what you're thinking. You want to have an emotional, that's a third part of your self-care plan, where you are nourished by the relationships around you. And you want to have a spiritual part of your self-care plan where you're connected with something bigger than yourself. So it doesn't necessarily mean a religious thing or anything. It could be nature, being out in nature. It could be anything like that. But this spiritual sense of being connected to something bigger. So I'm going to give you an example, and this is actually, it's a little awkward for me to talk about, but I think it's important because it happens to people. When I was in estate planning, remember I said I was working like 60 to 70 hours a week, and there was a day when my boss and our business consultant that she had hired had a meeting with me. And they were talking to me about, and by the way, I had a high performance, so that wasn't what this was about, but they were talking to me about me. And at one point in the conversation, they asked me if I was still working with my personal trainer. And that was such a strange question for them to ask. And I said, yes, I am, you know, and I was just waiting. And then what they said to me next just blew me away and actually led to me leaving that company. But they said, I think it was my boss that said, "You're very negative." And I was just floored by that comment, because for most of the people around me, I was the most positive person they knew. Everyone was always calling me like some Pollyanna or, you know, rose-colored glasses or something like that. Like I was the eternal optimist. I was always seeing the good in people and situations. So when she said that to me, it really got my attention. And I walked home from that meeting and I thought, you know, something is wrong here. How could an environment create such negativity in me? One of the most positive people I know, I have to leave here. This environment is really not good for me. And I knew that. And actually, there were lots of reasons that the environment wasn't good for me, but there was a lot of workaholism. You know, if you came in after like 7, people would look at you. If you left before 6 o'clock, I mean, it was just there was no lunchroom in the whole entire office. Everyone had to eat at their desk. What does that tell you? You know, where is the priorities here? So anyway, that was not a good fit for me. I did well, but it was not a good fit for me. So my self-care really needed a lot of help. And that was my intellectual. I decided that I was going to leave the company and I was going to find things that really help my mind be in a positive place. And so I did, and it really was cool. But I was so burnt out with that company, and I could see why. So I want to I want to close this up here, and I want to say to be able to prevent burnout and stress as a leader, and really do your best job, even better than what you're doing now, if you can imagine, because you're probably at a very high level of success. You want to be able to take your communication to the next level. So you want to be able to ask the right questions. You want to be able to listen in the right way. And you also want to be able to listen to yourself with a self-care plan and help yourself to be able to do both of those. And these will help. These have helped me prevent burnout. I'm in a new place, in a new occupation as a business and executive coach, and I can't tell you how relieved I am, how much my shoulders have dropped since I've left. So if you'd like to learn more about being a better communicator, there will be a next video training that I'll be giving next week. So stay tuned for that. But for now, just know that learning communication skills can really help you as a leader avoid burnout and lessen the stress that you have, and really inspire everyone around you, which is what we're here for as leaders. We want to inspire other people. This is why we got to where we are. So if you want any more information about this amazing way of communicating, type in "I want the report," and stay tuned for our next video. Let's see what the name of that. Oh, 3 ways for leaders to become better communicators. And I'll give you a hint. A lot of these communication skills I'm talking about came from my training as a coach. Coaching it's kind of a language in and of itself, and it really supports leaders. And one last story, when I left the corporate world, I said, I will never manage people again because it's way too hard. And I always felt pulled in both directions. I had my employees on one side, and I had my customers on the other. And I was always trying to balance the two. And, I wanted my employees to be happy and go out to work with to go to their kids' soccer games. I wanted my customers to have all of their deliveries on time with great excellence. And some days it seemed like I had to choose between one or the other. And that's when I left. I said, I will never manage people again. And now coming into coaching, I realized I could do it. If I had these communication skills, I could manage people. I could have stayed. I could have led that company into doing something, amazing. And as it was, my employees did love me, but I was completely stressed and burnt out. And now I know with coaching, I could have done it in a way that would not have stressed me and would not have had burnout. Now, by the way, there's always a little bit of stress, but I could have turned down the volume highly on that. So stay tuned for our next video, and wishing you lots of success with joy and leading with ease.